Hello my dear friends, you're in the Military Summary channel. In this short video we're going to discuss the most important events that took place on the territory of Ukraine during the previous nights of the local time. And first we're going to start not with the Vremivka tactical bridgehead, neither with the Kharkov area or like Dnieper River. Today the most important and very interesting updates are coming from Avdiivka front line. We discussed, and the Ministry of Defense of Russian Federation reported us that previous days the Ukrainians made a lot of attempts to attack the Russians in the vicinity of Novobakhmutovka. And also in the vicinity of Krasnogorovka. So the Ukrainians were trying to push the Russians from this bridgehead and probably to cut the supply and support and connection between these two settlements. And basically the Russians are saying that those the main force that were involved in that attack from the Ukrainian side was the forces of 28th Mechanized Brigade that located on this bridgehead. And today the Russians reported that after another unsuccessful wave, an unsuccessful attempt from the Ukrainian side to attack this territory, 20 soldiers from the Ukrainians 28th Mechanized Brigade took a decision to surrender. And after that the Russians made some kind of investigation. They start asking these soldiers why did they take a decision to surrender, and they're saying that the previous days the companies or 4th and 6th companies of 28th Brigade were sent to attack in this area the previous days. And currently, for example, the previous day the force of 5th company was sent in the same direction, and the soldiers are saying when they reached the combat line they saw the fields full of Ukrainians, of bodies of Ukrainians soldiers of 4th and 6th companies, and they understood that they were just sent to a suicide operation, and they took a decision to surrender with entire squad, with the entire company. So 20 soldiers took a decision to save their lives and not to continue fighting with the Russians. So this is very interesting, by the way. Now we're moving to the south, and let's discuss a little bit Marinka direction. The Russian blogger Riber reported that during the previous day the Russians made a successful counter-offensive operation to the south, and as a result of that attack the Russians managed to develop their bridgehead on the east end of Pobeda and on the south of Marinka. So basically, according to that blogger, the Russians managed to develop their bridgehead something like this, and mainly that situation currently the Russians can't develop the bridgehead in this area for one reason, and the thing is that during the previous weeks, after unsuccessful attempts from the Ukrainian side to attack from Velika Novoselovka, the Ukrainians first of all were forced to redeploy the forces of 35th Marine Brigade. I'll remind you that forces were located in the vicinity of Krasnogorovka, and they were protecting the north part of Marinka and Krasnogorovka itself. And currently those forces were redeployed to Vremivka tactical bridgehead, and the previous few days there was just 79th Air Assault Brigade who played the main role to stop the Russians in the vicinity of the western part of Marinka and the vicinity of Pobeda and Novobakhmutovka, just the 79th Air Assault Brigade. So we understand that the Ukrainians had lack of forces in this area, and the Russians start bombing and shelling and pushing these forces during the previous day. They increased the number of attacks and decreased the pressure, and currently the Russian sources are saying that the Ukrainians yesterday in the evening during these days were forced to replace the force of 79th Air Assault Brigade because of heavy losses with the forces of 95th Brigade. For now we don't have this updates on map because we need more confirmations about this piece of information, but anyways, understand the Russians and now see that Ukrainians have lack of forces, and probably they will increase the pressure, and currently, as we can see, the Russians are trying to develop their attack in direction of this, let's say, small interception road, trying to cut supply and support and trying to cut and reduce the Ukrainians' logistic in this area. Now we're moving further to the Vremivka tactical bridgehead. The Russians published a video how using drones they were attacking and shelling and bombing the Ukrainian tanks and armored vehicles inside of these settlements like Blagodatne, Makarovka and Starozhova. On this video you can see a lot of armored vehicles inside the settlement that Ukrainians were trying to hide among the brushes, among the forests, among the trees, among buildings and so on. So in this video we can see at least 2 armored infantry personal carriers and 1 tank, and later the Russians send their drones and the drones start attacking. The problem is that currently the time works in Russian favor and not in the Ukrainian favor, and the thing is that Ukrainians control these settlements is just a media victory, nothing more, because those settlements like Blagodatne, Starozhova and Makarovka Kakhovka are located in the lowland, and this is the best position for the Russians to control them with drones and to attack and bomb them heavily. So basically these settlements are in the gray zone. Because not from the perspective that nobody controls them, but from perspective that nobody should control this, because of very difficult position and very difficult position to defend. But Ukrainians, to have at least media victory, took a decision to capture those settlements, to move their vehicles there, to show pictures, video, to sell this product to the Western countries and to investors. And currently we see what the Russians are doing with this area. The Russians reducing this area with artillery heavily. The Russians understand that Ukrainians can't evacuate forces from these settlements, at least until the NATO summit, and they will move in more and more, and the Russians will do their job. They will destroy as many as Ukrainians brings. The Russians will destroy everything in those and in this bridgehead. Very interesting updates are coming from Orekhov bridgehead. Yesterday in the evening, if you ask me, I will give my opinion. I expected that the Ukrainians would launch another wave of counter-offensive operation, and the artillery preparation in this area that took place in the evening of the local time, and the piece of news that we received from that front line promised us a very big offensive operation from the Ukrainian side during the night. And basically the Ukrainians received an order, to be precise, the Ukrainian forces in the vicinity of Novodanilovka received an order to start movement to the south in direction of Robotina, and those were the forces of 47th Mechanized Brigade. And today the Russians reported that they managed to capture the radio signal and conversation of the Ukrainian forces in this area. Probably they have some spying network on these territories, and the piece information is that Ukrainians, to be more precise, the soldiers of 47th Brigade refused to attack the Russian positions, and that was the reason why the Ukrainians couldn't launch their offensive operation on the south of Orekhov. Currently, the Russians are saying that currently the Ukrainians are trying to punish those people who refuse to follow the orders, and they're saying that probably that within the next few days, according to the Russian piece of information, the Ukrainians will restart their attempt and will make another attempt to attack. Nobody knows, maybe another soldiers of another forces will refuse to attack, or the Ukrainians will replace 47th Brigade with, for example, 116th and 118th, whose forces haven't been on the front lines yet. Another interesting updates are coming from Kakhovka water reservoir. Yesterday in the evening there were a lot of updates from this territory. Some sources were saying that Ukrainians made attempt to cross the river. Some sources were saying that that was just air defense work. Anyway, there were a lot of activities exactly in the vicinity of Nova Kakhovka. Later we got update that Russians were trying using the machine guns and just a regular weapon to shut down the Ukrainian drones who were flying above Nova Kakhovka, Veselaya, Kazatska, over above these territories. And later probably the Russians managed to discover and to find Ukrainian positions in Berislav, and using artillery system they attacked Berislav and attacked Ukrainian drone positions. And after that the situation normalized and we stopped receiving any updates from these territories. During the previous night the Russians made another massive missile attack and drone attack, and the sources are saying that there were explosions in the vicinity of Nikolaev. So the Ukrainians are use this settlement for forces, for regrouping, and as you can see, according to this map, there are reserves on the north or west of this map, 41st, 22nd and 21st Mechanized Brigades. And that's it for this short video. Military Summary channel reminds to condemn any violence in the world. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel, put your likes, join my Patreon, and have a good day. Bye bye.